Joining us from Washington now for more context on North Korea's latest threat is Abe Denmark. He's an expert on East Asia and a fellow at the Center for a New American Security. Abe, thanks very much for being with us. How likely is it that either the United States or South Korea will stop and board North Korean ships anytime soon?
Well, if we get indications that there is a North Korean ship or plane with suspected cargo, we would be obligated under PSI, the Proliferation Security Initiative, to interdict that ship and inspect its cargo.
And if that were to happen, how would the North Koreans likely respond?
Well, it's difficult to say, actually. If North Korea decides that they want to escalate the situation, there are a number of ways that they could. What I think would be probably most likely in terms of a small escalation that North Korea could choose would be a maritime skirmish on the western side of the Korean peninsula, in which there have been skirmishes before in 1999 and 2002.
Say something happens at sea and there's a military response. What happens next?
Well, what happens next is really up to our allies in the south and into the north. If the north decides they want to escalate further, I think that they would quickly find that they're on a path that's definitely not in their interest. The South and the United States, I think, would try to make sure that the situation does not escalate by working with our allies, but also working with our partners, who nobody wants to see that situation escalate beyond that.
And give us a sense of how North Korea and South Korea match up militarily.
Well, militarily, the North Koreans qualitatively are very poor. Most of their equipment is very outdated. Most of their aircraft, for example, date back to the 1950s and 60s. Their soldiers are malnourished and not very well trained. But what they lack qualitatively, they make up for quantitatively. North Korea has over 1 million soldiers under arms, most of them garrisoned near the DMZ. The South, on the other hand, they're an ally of the United States. Their equipment is very up to date. Their soldiers are extremely well trained. They have over 500,000 troops, and they would, while they would have trouble with the, my analysis, of course, while they would have trouble with the original, just the mass of the North Korean army, if a large-scale confrontation were to occur, they would be able to quickly overcome that, and it would be signify the end of the North Korean regime if they were to go down that road.
Right. Where does China fit in on all of this, and how much influence are they likely to put out?
Well, China is North Korea's closest ally, sometimes its only ally, and China has a large economic relationship with North Korea. North Korea's primary economic activity is done through China. So China obviously has a lot of leverage within Pyongyang, at least we think they do. In the past, they have demonstrated the willingness to, for short times, cut off aid in terms of oil, in terms of food, but that aid was quickly turned back on. China is also primarily concerned on making sure that North Korea doesn't collapse. And that, for China, that means making sure that sanctions or any sort of initiative coming from the international community does not trigger that collapse. So the U.S. policymakers need to be very aware of the difference between what China can do and what they're willing to do.
Abe Denmark, thanks very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.